Hello, I'm Reverend Mark William Ennis, and I am here with my fourth of seven book readings from my book, Out of the Wilderness, by Christian Faith Publishing. So far, we've looked at a few topics. This topic is, what do we do when our prayers are not answered? But there's a secondary topic here. If we've been abused, do we take on the same activities that the abuser did to us? This is a warning. This is a warning to all of us who suffer difficulties from other people. This begins with a neighbor of Cal's. His name is Jim. He is an electrician, and he's helping Cal with a project that he had no luck with. Here we go. Okay, Cal, turn the breaker on. Calvin made his final trip downstairs, turned the breaker switch. Jim saw the ceiling lights go on. He climbed off the ladder and tried both switches. They worked perfectly. Jim, thank you. You're welcome anytime. Next time, ask me first. I could have saved you a lot of time. He paused a moment. Where is Will? He always likes to learn trade skills. I'm not sure where he is, Calvin lied. He got dried off, I hope. He was soaked the last time I saw him. You saw him? Said Calvin. Yes, I was sitting on the porch reading the paper and I saw the soaking he got. Calvin just shook his head. I know. Can you believe that kid? He was supposed to be helping Rose and I to get ready for a party tomorrow. Instead of working, he was out having a water fight with his friends. What? Jim exclaimed. He was in no water fight. The Kowalski boys were ambushing people. They got Will. A few minutes later, they got the youngest Ryan boy. Will had nothing to do with that. He was coming back from the store. Calvin's face dropped. What had he done? His dark side was becoming as dark as his father's. Calvin, Jim said. You weren't harsh on him, were you? No, Jim, why do you ask? I was disturbed by Will's reaction when the boys doused him. He screamed at Marty. Do you know what my father's going to do to me? Jim paused. He wasn't angry at the boys. He was afraid of you. You might want to think about that. He walked toward the door and opened it. Thank you, Jim, Calvin said quietly. Calvin sat down in his favorite chair and lit a cigarette. Was his son really that afraid of him? Did the whole block know that he was feared? Had he become as bad as his father had been, even though he had promised never to be like him? He finished his cigarette and walked back to his son's room. His son seemed half asleep. He walked into the room and saw his son sleeping. He called to him to wake Will. The boy woke up and looked startled to see his father, startled and afraid. Calvin sat on the edge of the boy's bed. I'm so sorry. Jim next door saw everything. He told me what happened. I'm here to apologize. Will did not know what to say as he looked at the man he wanted to kill. He knew that whatever he said would be wrong. He lay still, looking at his abuser, and said nothing. Do you forgive me? William continued to stare at him and said nothing. Did you hear me? I'm asking for forgiveness. The boy prayed silently for his father to die of a heart attack, but his prayer was not answered. He vowed to say nothing except for what he communicated with his empty eyes. His father looked nervous at his son, who did not answer. What was he thinking? Was he injured enough to preclude speech? Rather than continue, Calvin got up, left the room, and fixed himself a double martini. That night, the boy asked God again to kill his father, or at least allow him the strength to kill him. His third request was that at least his parents would divorce. None of his prayers were answered. Will repeated these prayers every day until he left the house for college. He also had a nightmare. In it, he was in a wheelchair being pushed onto a stage where he was greeted by Jerry Lewis during one of his telethons. He woke up in a sweat, grateful to be able to move his limbs. And so that is the fourth reading from the book. We have Calvin, who's been very harsh to Will. What's Will's reaction? He wants his abuser to die. Have we ever felt that? Many abuse victims have felt that and know that feeling. And perhaps a lot are grateful God did not answer that prayer. You know, sometimes a prayer that's answered no is the greatest blessing we can have. And Calvin is struggling. His father was harsh to him. That's why he's passed this trait along, and he's vowed never to be an abuser. But he is. For anyone who has been abused, perhaps it's God's grace that our prayers are not answered, but God protects us in other ways. And for those of us who've been abused, well, it's a challenge not to be abusive to other people. We don't want to do the same things that were done by abusers. If you have been abused and this might be triggering for you, please reach out to me. I will be happy to connect you with some resources to help you, especially the therapists at Hudson River Care and Counseling here in New Jersey. They have a few trauma specialists who can help you begin the journey to healing. Again, I am Reverend Mark William Ennis. This is a reading from Out of the Wilderness, published by Christian Faith Publishing. I hope that you will prayerfully consider purchasing a copy, and I hope it can be a catalyst to your healing and to healing of any of your friends who might need it. God bless you all.